what does the panel think the role of entrepreneurship is in boosting economic growth and well-being, and what can be done to incentivize it? Second, education. What's the role of education, particularly university education, in boosting productivity?
Are we going to return to a situation where the extended family will have to take responsibility for its own weaker members?
Should we now be talking more and educating more to become employers as opposed to be employees?
What are the policies that the panel are putting forward to break the vested interests in the public sector and to give a better deal to people who work in small businesses?
It's really so much more about empowering people within the population to create their own jobs.
The label social market economy. I think that is a model which is combining the social policy together with the economic policy. And I see it as very dangerous for politicians to separate the 2 points.
The priorities of public service unions are 5. One is pay, the next one is pension, the next one is promotion, the next one is protection, and the next one is professionalism. 5 Ps. To break those, Mr. Minister, you could get your nose broken in return. Do you know what I mean? It's not a battle that anyone will win today.
Will it be reformulation of the state, these processes which we have been discussing about, or will it be full-scale damage control?
How do we continue to provide access for all, in theory at least, and fund our education system?
Entrepreneurship should be a feature of the public service as well as the private sector. And I think, you know, bringing entrepreneurship much more centrally into the education system is absolutely vital. That we have failed. I think our education system, you know, hasn't been demanding enough on either its participants or those who are lecturing or providing an education to give people the capacity to be creative.
With too much of a focus on creating jobs, we need as much focus on actually creating what those jobs are for, which is activity.
One idea this week that has been making the rounds, I think it's a very valid idea, as was mentioned earlier, is a proposition to enhance the lending of the European Investment Bank. Mr. Olli Rehn said yesterday that 10 billion extra funding for the EIB could lead to 60 billion extra investment. And this would be a far better use of resources by the European Union. True, and for that to happen, governments need to be less concerned about raising cash for day-to-day spending so that that investment can be made. This, of course, is a longer-term program, but it would certainly go a large part of the way towards empowerment and the enhancement of business and entrepreneurship.
We need to break that notion of security, to John's question, security for a society to make it confident, and the point that was made earlier, it needs to be around where people are outside of the labour market, when they're young and when they're old and when they're sick. The problem for Europe, it is confused flexibility and security right during that period of people's lives when they should be potentially active and creating something. And I think that's where we need to focus in on, where it impacts on the labour market.
I think that is something that will happen in the future. Private companies will produce, and there's very little public services produced by the state or local communities. And in fact, when you outsource the services, very often these new companies offer such services that were not offered before, and that can lead into economic growth in the society as well. What can happen if we are not sustainable in social security in the future? That we will go in Europe over to Obama model. It means that people take insurances to guarantee risks in different life situations. But however, I think it's very essential, looking back the history of this continent, that it's obligatory. So it's that if people don't take insurances, so then when you are old, so you might regret, but then it's too late. What we need is, and I think that's quite a good system, that when anyone establishes a new firm, so you have business angels, you have older people who guide you, help you, advise you, and then may even invest in the company a little bit. New technologies, for example, in healthcare, You can take care with all measurement systems in 10 years. I think you can control people in their own homes. They can get advice and will need much less hospitals in the future. What is very essential is a regulatory environment. Today, if you are in digital market, so it's total mess in Europe. In the United States, you can acquire substance to your services. In Europe, with 27 countries, with different systems of copyright, so it's almost impossible. So the regulation must be in place.